just like Tranmere Rovers. Thank you very much, John. Thanks for what you said. Thanks for what you're doing today and do every day to support the Labour Party, bring us all together and bring us nearer to that day when we win the election. And I want to give Terence a little present, and it's a book for him to read. I know he's very studious. But this one, the message is very simple. Terence, win goal for all of us. Together. Thanks all for being here today. We're on a pretty tight timetable, running all over the place. We were this morning in Hull. We've just come from Scarborough, and you know what? The Spa was absolutely packed with people in Scarborough, determined that Labour will win wherever we go, because this is an election in every part of the country. And you know what? The crowds are getting bigger, the enthusiasm's getting greater, and you know what? We're not a party of huge amounts of money and wealth. And you know what? The average donation that's coming into our head office is £22. And I'm very proud of that, because it shows it's people, ordinary people, giving their support as best they can for their future. They're not buying influence, they're not buying access. What they're doing is supporting all of us doing stuff together, and that's what this election campaign is about. John spoke about social care. There is a social care crisis. There are more than 1 million people waiting for social care, stuck, frightened, families worried, people giving up work to care for those who the rest of us should be able to care for. And all the government can do is threaten even more with taking away the value of homes, property, and all the fear that goes with that for every family. And then Theresa May announced there was a U-turn, and I was asked a question about the U-turn, and I said I thought it'd be a very good idea, but I wasn't sure what it was. And then at the end of that event, I tried to check out what the U-turn was. And you know what? It's bad enough making false promises, but it's even worse doing a false handbrake turn when the vehicle carries on in the same direction. In reality, there is no change. There is no change. And what we're saying as a Labour Party, we value our National Health Service. And we are utterly determined that the crisis of 1 million waiting for social care will be dealt with and will be ended, just as much as the whole concept of employing corridor nurses to cope with the queue in a hospital will also be dealt with by properly funding our National Health Service. And so we will put emergency money into there. We will ensure there is a future for all of us with our National Health Service, free at the point of use, not open for sale, not open for privatisation, not open for rationing. A human right we won after the Second World War with that great Labour government. And it's going to be another Labour government that saves it, another Labour government that builds in social care. There's also the mental health crisis. We all know the stress people go through, the loneliness of dealing with the mental health crisis when you can't get help, you can't get support because it's simply not there. And a government that has got rid of 6,000 mental health nurses in the past 5 years. That is just not right. End the stigma, end the jokes, end the isolation, and a Labour government will properly fund our mental health services so that everyone gets the support they need, particularly our young people. And what makes me so angry is the way in which Theresa May has set this election as a sort of intergenerational rivalry. Well, look around you. Look at the crowd here today. We're young, we're old, we're black, we're white, we're gay, we're straight, we're men, we're women, we're people with disabilities, we're people without disabilities. But we come together as a community in support of each other. We all contribute to a health service to be there for all of us. None of us want to be ill, none of us want to go to hospital, but we need to know it's there for us. That is the principle of community service. And so, our young people are up against it. Our schools are underfunded. Too many of our children go to school hungry. A hungry child cannot concentrate. A hungry child cannot learn. And so I'm very determined, very, very determined that we will ensure every child in school gets a school lunch every day in order they can study better, in order their health can be improved. And you know what? I went to the National Association of Head Teachers Conference. They kindly invited me and I was very pleased to go and talk to them. And after I'd given my speech and taken questions from them, I then had a round table with a group of head teachers from all over the country. And these are people holding very responsible positions in looking after our schools, primary and secondary. And the stress they were going through was saying, Jeremy, how do we deal with a crisis where all the advice we get from government is put up with it and collect money from the parents or get rid of the teachers who can't afford to employ anymore. We shouldn't be putting them under that pressure. Their pressure is of ensuring our children get the education they need. So we will go back to all of that to ensure that our schools are properly funded in the future. We were this morning in Hull, City of Culture this year. Tom Watson and I launched our cultural manifesto. Now you might say, what are you doing cultural manifesto for? Culture is there. It's all of us. There's the history of our communities. There's a history of what we achieve. And there is inspiration and imagination in all of us, in every child. And so I'm very proud that our manifesto says quite clearly, we will introduce a pupil arts premium so that every child in every primary school can learn music in school. So that it develops the whole person and the whole individual. And just as much as we want a sport policy where the very wealthy Premiership clubs pay for the rest of our children everywhere else to be able to play sport, to play football at the grassroots, we want the same thing in arts and culture. We want the musicians of tomorrow to be able to learn the music of today. We need their space and we need those opportunities. And so this is about opportunity for young people as well. And so as they go on through school, we will bring back the educational maintenance allowance to encourage young people to stay on in school. Because we want an educated workforce, we want a trained workforce, we want a skilled community. And likewise, universities should not be available just to those who can bear the cost of the massive debt. It should be available for all of us. I want a young person from Gould, just as much as anywhere else in the country, to want to go to university, be able to get there, and not be sent a bill for £50,000 at the end of it. And so, yes, all that we're proposing, obviously, has a cost attached to it. We all know that. So this election is about a choice. Do you elect the government that we have at the moment that's presiding over injustice and inequality, that is ignoring the housing crisis and the growing number of homeless on our streets, and a taxation policy which will hand 60 billion in tax relief to the biggest corporations and the wealthiest people over the next 5 years? Or do you say, hang on, there's a slightly different way of doing things. Invest in our future, all of our futures. Invest in a national investment bank that will improve transport infrastructure, broadband infrastructure, and be prepared to invest in the sustainable cutting-edge industries of the future. And it won't cost 95% of the people anymore in tax, VAT or national insurance. It will cost the biggest corporations some more, but yes, we'll increase taxation at the top end, because I believe we're putting an offer to the British people. It's a serious, well-prepared, well-thought-out, fully costed offer of the kind of Britain we can be, the kind of country we can be? Are we going to be one where we individually, none of us would pass by on the other side if you saw somebody in distress? You wouldn't do that because it's a human instinct. You see somebody in difficulty, you help them. So why do we have, as a sort of act of faith, an article of faith in government policy, that we put up with the fact there are thousands of desperate people sleeping on our streets? There are tens of thousands of children growing up in poverty. There are people desperately unsure of their own future and uncertain of their communities because of lack of investment and all the problems that come from that. Or do we point ourselves in the other direction? The direction of doing things together, where you have a government that works for everybody, not just a few, where you have a government that invests for the future, and you're a government that's serious about negotiating, whilst leaving the EU, a trade agreement with them so we defend and maintain jobs in this country. That to me is very, very important. And so we do this for the entirety of the community. I utterly reject the idea there's an intergenerational struggle here. There isn't. Societies, families, people work together. The young, the old, those in between recognise the huge achievements of those with disabilities rather than the I. Daniel Blake generation where they're forgotten and driven away through unfair capability of work assessment tests. So it's about a society that works for all. And that means you need to have a government that works for all. That means you need to have a party that works for all. Our offer in this election is quite simply this. Go down that road which the government is taking us, of inequality, of injustice, of saying there's no alternative. Well, we heard all that before from some years ago. Some people in the audience don't remember. But in this election, nobody can say there's a choice. There's a choice of that, of our programme, our manifesto, which Terence is going to very kindly lend me, but I'll give it him back. This manifesto, fully costed, fully prepared, worked out of how we approach the problems in our society, how we approach the problems of environmental sustainability, how we approach the problems that everybody faces. And you bring people together to achieve it. And that is the choice in this election, and I'm very proud to lead the Labour Party, to offer you that choice, to offer you ask for your support in this election with this manifesto. I'm being hooked today with somebody, not a fox hunter with somebody with a shepherd's crook, is going to pull me away because I understand there's a lot of people waiting for a rally in there are about 4,000 there already. So if you will really forgive me, we didn't want to keep the good people of Hull waiting longer than is strictly necessary. This campaign, 2 weeks to go, and there are now 6 hours and 6 minutes to register to vote. Anybody in this audience who hasn't registered to vote, I'm not going to embarrass you by asking you to put your hand up. You're going to shake my hand, that's fine, but don't take it away. Thank you very much. Get yourself registered to vote. This is the future for all of us together. Be confident, be powerful, be hopeful. Unity will win. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, sure. Sorry.